just give people a few more minutes. Lawrence said that he would do an announcement about now.
Perfect.
Hey, Sally.
Hi.
Hi, I'm sorry, I was having too much fun talking to Poppy and Stefania and Pablo. I mean, it's like a real conference, you know? I'd rather do
I
that.
believe you.
But anyway, are you all set here? We have any issues to deal with?
No, all good.
No.
Thomas? Good. It's good. Oh, well, I'll shut up then. I'll just sit back and enjoy.
Well, you don't have to shut up, but certainly sit back and enjoy.
Will do.
Right, how about we get started now? It's been a couple of minutes. Okay, everyone, you can definitely hear me, yes? Yep, okay, I see some emojis, wonderful. Okay, everyone, welcome to the 5th workshop session at the Audio Engineering Society AVAR conference. This session, we have 2 great presentations from 2 fantastic speakers. The topic for this whole session is actually augmented reality audio, which I'm super excited about, as I've done plenty of work in this area myself. Our first presentation is from Thomas here, and he's from Scopeaudio. He's going to be giving a presentation about the hands-on approaches to create immersive 3D audio landscapes for AR audio. But, he's not just going to focus on technical stuff. He's also going to, share some information about how to guide the audience and, create a very immersive and delightful audio experience for augmented reality applications. I won't spoil the whole presentation though, so I'll hand it over to Thomas, and we will wrap up in about an hour, I guess. Take it away.
Thanks. Thanks for the introduction. And thank you guys all for coming and listening to me virtually. It's a shame that we can't meet up in person, but still, yeah, it is what it is. So today I'm going to talk about sonic traces, and the subtitle says Immersive Augmented Audio Stories. First, who am I? This is me in real life, like not so pretty as I have my avatar. I'm the founder and CEO of Scopeaudio, a studio for all kinds of audio stuff based in Vienna, in Austria, in Europe. And just a brief introduction. I'd like to say that we fulfill all your audio needs, whether it's audio post-production for television, for movies, for commercials. We do music recording, we do music mixing, music composition, yeah, all kinds of stuff, like whatever the client needs. And recently, like about 4 years ago, we decided to go into the field of spatial audio. And to be totally honest, it happened through accident, but yeah, you can talk to me later and I can tell you the story. But so yeah, here we are. And during that time, we had the idea of developing a location-based audio AR application called Sonic Traces. So it's basically an app. You can call it experience as well, but it comes in the form of an app. And it's location-based audio AR. So yeah, more about that later. We have some components that are essential within the experience. This is of course spatial audio in order for people to navigate through the 3D sound space they hear. It's 6 degrees of freedom. There's head tracking implemented, of course, because as all of you know, we do all these little head movements in order to navigate within a 3D space or to localize sound sources. So this was really important to us. And we also have, I can't read my own, so, yeah, location-based, of course. So the prototype is called Heldenplatz, simply because it takes place at the Heldenplatz. And if I can grab this laser pointer, give it to me, yes. Do you see my laser point? Yeah. It's this area. Is basically walkable. So it's pretty huge and you can walk through and listen to stories and sounds and stuff. But more on that later, but I have to turn off the laser pointer. Come on, don't roll away, sorry. No. So, here we are. But what do people hear? So we have two layers. One is the year 1848 and the other one is the year 2084. So why is that? The year 1848 is basically the European Revolution, and the European Revolution was really important for some of our basic rights, like civil rights, electoral rights, also women's rights. So this was a huge revolution and it was really important, but almost nobody knows about it. I mean, especially in Austria, you know, we are like the southern part of Germany, and we do have some period of time that we are very well educated in, but 1848 is not that time. And then we have a second layer where we put all the like the conclusions from 1848 into a dystopian version of a possible future. So here the government is artificial intelligence, there's a social rating system, like it's being established now in China. And the Heldenplatz, which is also called the place of free thoughts, is the only free place, because you get little assistants in your ear, and they basically can track your thoughts and everything you say, of course. So these don't work at the Heldenplatz. So basically, this is one free place. So you will find people like an older generation that enjoy the freedom of like past times, and you will also yeah, you will also see young people, like revolutionary people who are against this system and so on. And yeah, you will meet humans as well as robots there. So what do we need to build a convincing experience? Of course, we need a game engine, because it's basically a computer game where someone walks through an 360 audio landscape. Then, as I mentioned, we need head tracking in order to be able to navigate through the experience and to make it realistic, because it doesn't make sense if like something is sounding from or sounding to your right, and then you turn your head and like the sound source is going with your head movement. So you have to be realistic. The head tracking, we decided to use the VIT head tracker simply because they just work fine with the Wwise plugin suite. So we hired a software developer to implement all this head tracking and blah, blah, blah. And then Bose announced their AR devices, like the QC35-2, the 700, and the frames. And they built a huge platform. They had this great SDK, which was available for free, and it was really easy to use. Even I'm not a software developer, and I understood what I'm doing with a little, like a small learning curve. Yeah, but as all of you might know, Bose like quit their AR program, so we are back. We have another project coming up, and we have to use our own custom-built head tracker or implement an Arduino system whatsoever. So it's really unfortunate because, yeah, I mean the Bose devices, they worked really good. Industrial design wise, they were looking great. You all know Bose, they sounded great. A lot of people had them already because of their noise cancelling system. So yeah, it's a shame that they quit this product series or this platform. I even met with Michael Ludden, the head of AR audio, and we developed some strategies and collaboration stuff to bring it to Europe, and yeah, but that is all gone now. But it doesn't really matter. We figure out another way. Then we need some kind of player control, because as I said, it's basically a computer game where people walk through. And the most obvious thing is, as most of the people have their mobile devices with them, that we use their GPS. And I mean, GPS is not very accurate, but in an open space, we thought we give it a try. And to be honest, we also didn't really know about camera tracking systems like visual tracking methods. So yeah, GPS was our way to go. The software we used was basically Unity, and within Unity we tried a lot of plugins. We tried the Mapbox thing. Yeah, we tried basically everything. I did a lot of research what is out there to create AR audio stuff on real locations. And yeah, but all the plugins, they lacked of some, yeah, there were just some problems with every of it. So there's no way to go. It's just you have to experiment. You have to try out all the different solutions, and then hopefully you have a good developer. Then you are able to build your own solution with the experiences you had from these. And for all the audio work, we used Wwise, simply because Wwise is great when it comes to customizing attenuation curves, filter curves, whatsoever. All the audio part is being handled in Wwise, and also the separation between Unity and Wwise is really helpful if a lot of people are working on a project. I mean, we were not a lot of people, but at least 3 people. And so the developer could focus on the GPS tracking system while I could work on the audio side in Wwise, and we would not like complicate things. It was really, really good. As for a binaural renderer, we also tried like almost everything there's out there. Here, just to name a few, we tried the Google Resonance renderer, the Oculus Spatializer, the Rapture 3D Universal SDK, and the Auro 3D headphone plugin. So in my opinion, the Rapture 3D SDK sounded the best, but for me it was not an option really, because you have to be kind of a software engineer, or at least you have to be really good in C# in order to make changes. You have a lot of HRTFs implemented, but even changing the HRTFs requires some coding, and yeah, I simply didn't want to pay a developer for like every small line of code. So yeah, but it sounded the best, to be honest. This is actually should be a video, but it's just a screenshot. You can see my poor modeling skills from the place, and these spheres represent sound sources. In the video, we would have just zoomed in, and then you see a lot of sound sources. But yeah, and after all tests, we ended up using the Auro 3D headphone plugin. And to be honest, simply because it had an early reflection engine built in, and some of you may ask, yeah, why didn't you use early reflections or Wwise Reflect? So why didn't we generate it? More on that later. Here's the Wwise project. It's like Wwise was also totally new for me, so I had to learn everything, and when I opened the program the first time, I had no idea what all these functions and buttons and whatsoever is like, what they are doing. But it's really easy to get a hang of it, and they also offer great support. It's like even if you use it for free, they will answer your questions. They have a lot of courses online, so yeah, pretty good. And here is it will also be a video, but it's just a screenshot now. You see the scene got a little better, a little more like cleaner, and my modeling skills, I mean, it's just squares, yeah, but they got a little better, and I discovered materials and stuff. So yeah, and these red lines you see, these are basically the GPS markers, so that the system can calculate the actual position in relation to the marker position. So what did we learn? Like, what is important to create a convincing experience? Of course, there's the story, and the story plays the most important part. And we always wanted to create an experience where the story is like the main focus. We just use technology in order to tell the story. It should not be the other way around. I see a lot of experiences out there where the technology is really fascinating and it really works great, but the story is kind of weak. So it makes no sense for us. And when now we have the prototype running since May, and we are trying to get clients in to buy immersive augmented audio stories, and we also try to convince them that yeah, we could just deliver technology for your museum to have indoor tracking and hear some stuff, but that's not our approach. We actually want to sell the story as well. So story, as I said, is the most important part. Then what I learned, I mean, I know that voiceover recordings are really important, but I didn't know that they are as important as they are in a AR audio only experience. So we did a little bit of miscalculating the budget for the actors, unfortunately, but we have some good and some not so good actors, and it really makes a difference. Also, how you record it. Like, you can't have any natural room, but then again, if there is no natural room you hear in the recording, then it sounds like artificial. So, but more on the voiceover recordings later. And yeah, we did a lot of playing around with mic distancing, different mic types, but again, more on that later. Then there's sound design. Of course, you need Atmos, but you have to think about how does a different time or different epoch really sound. I mean, in 1848, it was really hard because at that time in Vienna, there was only a park area around the place, and people were not really allowed into the Heldenplatz. It was strictly for the emperor. So we kind of cheated a little bit. I mean, we wrote the concept later, or the explanation later, so that the Heldenplatz is like a place where all the stories that could have happened in Vienna come together. And so, but otherwise there would be almost no sound except for some nature sound and maybe some horses walking around. But this was too boring, so we decided to do a little bit more sound design. And what I discovered, what is really important, are the NPCs, like the non-player characters. These are just some sound sources that are animated, like footsteps, horses, all these different elements, all kinds of animals. And if you just put a general atmosphere in the scene, then there is no, I mean, there is immersion, but there is not that much immersion. If you have a lot of NPCs, then you really feel that somebody is walking by, or you can actually localize the bird that is tweeting or the horse that is walking by. So in my opinion, this was really, really important. And then the attenuation curves. I remember when Anastasia Devana once told me or she told everybody in her keynote in York at the Immersive Audio conference last year, that you can forget everything you know about attenuation curves. And I thought, phew, yeah, this is really hard, but because we like calculated it and we know how these things work. But it turns out she is actually quite right. So most of the time we experimented with attenuation curves, to be honest. So here's a list of sound sources that we used. We used ambisonic recordings just for general atmos and simply because they sound better in a 6-dOF sound field than if you use stereo recordings and place them into the room or into the space. And there's a lot of mono sources, of course, like all the voices, all the different animals, all the type. We also had some stereo implementation. I experimented with how can you make sound music like really stereo within a 6 degrees of freedom setting. And with Wwise, it was really good. And then I have here reverberation. So of course, reverberation is like a sound source generates reverb, but here in this experience, I would say, or I would treat it as a sound source itself, because the reverberation really gives clues to where you are and how huge or small or whatsoever the space is. And for me, this is like, it was always next to the original sound source. So I treated reverberation as a own sound source, so to say. So challenges. We had a lot of challenges. First, the mobile phones. They have very limited CPU power. And this is also because I really like the Auro 3D plugin, because it has a built-in early reflections engine. Because a mobile phone simply couldn't handle it the way we wanted it to sound. And I mean, there's demos of a game, Call of Duty, a mobile game, where they use Wwise Reflect, but we have hundreds of sound sources, and yeah, it was too much. And also we wanted to be compatible to a lower generation of mobile phones. So you don't need to have the latest iPhone or Android phone to be able to use our app. And we tested it with an iPhone 6S, and it worked. And this was our standard from then on. And as the project grew and more sound sources came in, then yeah, we realized, okay, maybe an iPhone 7 or 8 would have been better, but still we had to work with what we had. Then there's also, especially with Androids, you have the issue of compatibility on a lot of devices. Like now that the app is out, I get a lot of emails from people saying, okay, I tried to download it and it doesn't work with my Samsung, not even Galaxy, Samsung A3 something. So, and then I mean, I tried to answer all the emails, and I did a little research, and the Samsung A3 whatsoever didn't have a gyro sensor and didn't have an accelerometer, and so yeah, of course it can't work. But please read the website. So it says you need to have this kind of device. So yeah, but then again, this is contrary to what I said earlier, that we want to have the story in the foreground and technology in background. So with projects, we have 5 devices at the Viennese Heldenplatz at the Haus der Geschichte, which is a museum. And if you rent these, then it sounds like it's intended to sound. So if you're gonna use your own device, we recommend using an iPhone from 6S, and people, they don't really care what's on the website. They just use whatever they have, and then they complain that it's not working. But I guess you've all been there. Then another thing is the app, as I mean, it's 3.5 hours of material, so you can be on the space for 3.5 hours, and then you heard everything. And of course, these are a lot of sound files, so you need to download. I guess on the iOS store it's about 400 megabyte, and then if you extract it, it's around 1 gigabyte. So we tried to do a streaming version of it, but without 5G network streaming, it's just, yeah, it doesn't really work. So yeah, people need to download the whole app, so that's kind of a bummer. But yeah, still, if you're really interested, then you will do it. And again, it's our prototype, and we wanted to like implement every idea we had. So of course, it's a little bit too big. I guess nobody ever was on the space for 3.5 hours. To be honest, even I didn't like fully test it. Then there is GPS. Of course, GPS is inaccurate per se. So I think the official accuracy is about 20 meters, so a radius of 20 meters. At the Heldenplatz, there are no real obstacles, so there's no reflection, and we got close to 1 meter of accuracy, which is pretty good. And to be honest, it doesn't really matter if, I mean, it's a huge space, and if the person is talking 3 meters next to its original position, it's fine. You just walk 2 steps and then you hear it well enough. So, and if the sound, like the sound sources, the position of the sound sources change slightly, it doesn't really matter. This would be a huge problem if you do something indoor. Imagine in a space like this where every meter counts, or every centimeter sometimes even. So yeah, this was not so much of a problem, but yeah, we were lucky that the Heldenplatz didn't have any obstacles in the way. And yeah, how to track the fast movements. GPS might be accurate for up to 1 meter in our case, but it has a bit of a latency. So you start walking away, and suddenly after 10 seconds, the GPS starts following you, or you move 1 step and the GPS wanders off. So we had to figure out a solution where we implemented all kinds of sensor fusion. Like we have, because the Bose headphones, they have accelerometer, gyroscope, and compass, magnetometer built in. And you have also your mobile device, so all these sensors, you have twice the data. And we tried to experiment with all kinds of, okay, if the accelerometer recognizes a movement after a certain threshold, then update the GPS position. Without that, please leave it. We also tried to use the accelerometer data to predict the direction where somebody is going. With these predictions, we got into the Kalman filter stuff. For those of you who don't know, a Kalman filter is basically an algorithm that predicts your movement. Let's say you use the Google Maps, and you're in your car and you drive through a tunnel, and you see this little arrow continuing to move. This is pretty much what a Kalman filter does. It predicts that you have been at this velocity and yeah, and in this direction. So it's really really obvious that you might be in a tunnel, so there's no GPS signal, so I will just continue predict it. And it works out fine, and it's really good. I mean, sensor fusion, it works, but there's still, for our next project, we have to optimize it and do a little bit better. Then the latency. Latency is also an issue. I mean, the both AR devices, which we use for the Heldenplatz, they updated their sensors every 20 milliseconds, which is fine. I mean, audio, like, what do you call it? Audio interested people or people dealing with latency issues, they will recognize it, but the consumer will not recognize it. But the bigger problem is, like, we wanted to have kind of a sexy device, like not cables and stuff. You just put on your headphone and you have no cable to your phone, so we transmitted audio via Bluetooth. And this is a latency of 200 to 400 milliseconds, which is really annoying if you turn your head and the soundscape follows up to half a second later. So, I mean, it is better with a cable, but then again, this is not as sexy as without a cable. And then there is iOS versus Android. Are you still with me? I have some critical errors.
Thomas, can you
Am I
hear
back?
me? Can you hear me, Thomas?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, so I think you're back now. Maybe you want to just
Okay.
ask the audience and they can give you emojis if they can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, sounds good. Oh, it looks good in that case. Perfect. Okay, let's continue. There is iOS versus Android, and actually at the AES in New York last year, I talked to Rob Toulson, and he said, "Why do you use Android?" And I answered, "Yeah, because I have an Android phone. It's just the phone I have, so I develop on Android." And he said, "No, no, you gotta use iOS because it's way better when it comes to latency. It's just more capable of processing audio. It's like basically a little bit with the MacBooks versus Windows laptops. So, I mean, audio is the latency is way better with iOS, but still recognizable." And then we did some tests with non-audio related people, like I asked my father and my girlfriend and even my daughter, who is 5 years old, and they didn't even recognize it, that it's changing. They were so fascinated by this new technology that they didn't really, I mean, they felt it, of course, and it would be more immersive if the latency was gone, but they said that it was not really an issue. So we thought, okay, as long as technology doesn't improve, we need to be finishing this project, so we use what's there. And I mean, if you want to have better latency, then you can still plug in a cable and yeah, don't have the Bluetooth latency. I gotta say, there's like you can use the app without both devices as well. In order to do that, you just need to point the mobile phone in the direction you're looking, so your mobile phone becomes the head tracker, which works fine. But again, not as sexy. But the most challenge, or the biggest challenge was that you had no visual reference. And I thought, well, I didn't think of it as a problem, but I mean, I play a lot of games in VR, and we also did a lot of VR experiences. And if you have some visual, and let's say you have a character 10 meters away to your right, then you can make him sound believable simply because you have a visual reference. And I guess our brain is very fast in adapting to an auditive world or to a virtual world, and the auditive rules or the sonic rules are taken as given. So you can if you see something and it sounds that way, your brain like somehow adapts to the situation and believes that this is the realm I'm in, so yeah, everything's fine. But without any visual reference, you have to be really careful of how do 2 meters sound or how do 10 meters sound. I mean, there's all the theory, of course, but it's really important for people to feel it. And because this breaks the immersion, if something is I mean, we have some parts where you walk through an path where there's like a frequently asked questions about 2084 48, sorry, and you need to feel that you walk past these questions and answers. And so also with the latency and with the lack of GPS accuracy, you need to define a rule set that you understand. And I thought this was easy, but it turns out that it was really, really hard to do. Then, of course, um, you have no visual reference. So you create images of the sound objects in people's head. And you have to be very careful about how the images look like, because you can have some, I mean, the topic itself would suggest a dark Blade Runner-like future. But we wanted to have more like of a cleanish Star Trek future. So in order to be serious and like you have to think about the future you are in, but it's not dangerous per se. So it is kind of worrying, but people live their life, they're doing fine, and everything is good. So that you can build your own opinion. And this is like I put some sound on trash bins so that I just have a visual reference in real life, and the sound is coming from them. And all these small little detailed sounds, like how to generate a soundscape that is not threatening, but like worrying a little. That is not too dark, not too bright. It's really hard. It's like, but of course doable. I mean, this is. I think the people that do audiobooks and stuff like that, or audio plays, they face the same issues because you suddenly really have to think about the atmos you put in. I mean, if you have a movie, then you have a visual reference. You see the stuff and you can relate somehow. But with no visual references, it's a lot harder to create or to let people create the right images. Let's put it that way. So then we did some first on location tests. Here you see a map of the Heldenplatz, and as the map says, it's more than 36,000 square meters, or more than 43,000 yards. So it's quite big. And yeah, how did we test it? Like I hired a software developer that built the GPS system. Here you see the Scopeaudio logo and the red dot in the screenshot of the phone. And the Scopeaudio logo is the actual position, and the red dot is the GPS position. And like according to your sensor data, the actual player follows the GPS position. And our testing process was like a very naive one, let's say. We didn't use pink noise or white noise or whatsoever. I just had the developer develop the GPS tracking, and then I put a single voiceover recording from some commercial on the place, and yeah, just heard what it sounded like and tested it when I walk around it, when I walk away, when I walk close, like all the things. And then I started building up the atmos around it, and then place a second voiceover recording, and yeah, just like by simulating real life and trying to have a non-audio engineer ear, so to be able to focus on the things that people with no audio education might hear or might feel. So then the big topic of attenuation curves. I think you all know the inversive square law. where it says like double the distance is half the sound pressure level. This is really great in physics and stuff, so it really works. And I mean, we have measured this, we've calculated this, but it doesn't really work in an audio AR environment where you have to deal with latency, no visual reference and stuff, like the challenges I said before. So we tried a lot of different attenuation curves. This was one take on it, because there's like this subjective listening. If you focus on and this is not scientifically proven, this is just my opinion. If you listen to somebody and you are close to him, then you focus on that person. And that person, you don't really realize that the sound pressure level of that person speaking is actually getting lower up to a certain point. Then suddenly you realize really quickly, or a real big difference in the sound pressure level as you walk too far away. So we tried to simulate kind of this feeling, and to be able to focus on stuff without, because it's computer generated, it's not real sound pressure coming through the air and you're not seeing the person. So we had to simulate it somehow. This was our very first approach of doing that. And this was also like, I tested it by letting my studio partner talk, and I walked around him and listened to clues of how his voice changed and how the attenuation curves must be. We ended up using a curve like this. I guess this is the actual curve. You see a small like a pike in I guess it's, what is it, about 1 dB at a certain distance. And this is because here you see another pike, another, how do you call it, top thing. This was because of the short movements. We had the impression that because of the latency of GPS, you couldn't really hear a difference in a certain radius. So we tried to simulate it. The blue curve is peak, thanks. The blue curve is a low pass filter, and we tried to simulate it with, if you walk away, it suddenly gets louder, but it gets filtered. So in order that you still have this focus, so you don't lose focus like you would in real life, but you have a change in sound, so that it feels natural for people. Okay, I'm walking away, there's something different, but I don't know what it is. And this was really important for most of our test subjects, or friends, let's call them friends, they were friends. We also have a high pass filter going on, and the yellow line is spread. So we experimented a lot with spreading the sound sources, because if you use whatsoever spatializer, in my opinion, it's just too direct. You hear it just from this side, and in real life it doesn't sound that way. So yeah, we had to experiment a lot with spreads, and turns out like a curve like this works in our case. But keep trying to experiment with the curves. And I gotta say, I spent the project took us 1 year and 3 months, and I spent almost 1 year, or let's say 10 months, adjusting these curves. Even in a very late stage, I thought, okay, now I need to adjust it a little bit. So this is really important. Then we have sound sources to make the scenery feel real. In that case, the story is not really important, because the story is important on the narration side, but the story itself, it just dictates the kind of sounds, but how they sound and where to place them is more important. So that's why it has a smaller role here. As I mentioned, the NPCs, the non-player characters, they are really important, in my opinion, to give a feel of immersion. If you hear somebody walk by and you go away, then this sound changes. it really helps immersion. Also with the horseback carriages, like the wooden carriages that are drawn by, no, that horses carry. Um, I mean, I did know where I put them, and when I was testing it, even I got shocked when suddenly a horse appeared next to me, or when it came close to me. So, and I was turning around and looking if the horse is really there, because there are horses at the place actually. So the non-player controls, in my opinion, helps 6 degrees of freedom immersion a lot. Then you have the Atmos. The Atmos are more, in my opinion, yeah, they give you a general feel of in which epoch you are. They give hints if like how the weather is. We even try to implement from Google weather data, like if it's raining, then you actually hear rain sound at the place. But yeah, our developer was a little bit lazy and we were over budget, so maybe we can implement that in our next project because it's actually pretty easy to do. And but Atmos give you a general feel of the space. So in which time am I? Is it windy? Is there a lot of people? Like all these kinds of stuff. And then of course the voices, but not what they say, but how they sound when they say it. So as I mentioned before, the attenuation curves. The attenuation curves before they were just these attenuation curves. These are the attenuation curves of the voices. So there's another attenuation curve for Atmos, for NPCs, whatsoever. So this is just the voices, and they make all the difference because a lot of people. I mean, we got the feedback that actually the voices are pretty quiet, so you need to really go close to them, so in order to understand everything. And but this is with intention. So I wanted it to sound naturally. And if you 20 meters away from a person talking, then you can't hear properly what the person is saying. So, but it taught me that most unexperienced AR users or unexperienced audio users, they just listen to the story and to the voices, and they want to have like the voices to be able to understand, and this is their main focus. Even if there's so much going on around them, they don't even realize that it's happening. And I gotta say, my 5-year-old, she was the only one that walked around and was like, ah, there's a cat and there's a bird and there's a dog and stuff. So she couldn't really relate to the story, so she heard other things, which is quite interesting. So again, elements. We have the voices. Then I see that we have 43 minutes already, so I will go a little bit faster. The Atmo, this would be like a detailed description. Then we have voiceover recording. If you ever do an audio AR experience, then I suggest you put a lot of research into voiceover recording. Here you can see me trying some different microphones. We tried all kinds of microphones, like shotgun microphones, cardioid microphones, condenser, dynamic, all kinds of manufacturers. So really, yeah, we tried a lot. We ended up using Neumann TLM 103, and it even won against the U87 and some Schöps. So because it just felt the most natural, even though it's said that it's not as good as some Schöps or whatsoever. Also, the distance is important. So you need to have a proper distance in order to make something feel real. Yeah. So yeah, distance, experiment with all the stuff. Then the room, you don't have too much room on it, but like, I mean, we didn't have the possibility to record in a total silent room. So we, in an anechoic room, so we had to experiment with the room acoustics and yeah, change it a little bit. So I will skip ahead because there is also the app and user interface you can watch for yourself, and there still had to be questions but there's also a video where you can listen to the experience. It's mostly in German, so please excuse that, but just to get a feel of how it sounds.
Quellen muss man haben.
Diese Quelle ist besonders wichtig.
Wir erzählen. Wenn einer von uns davon weiß, reicht das vollkommen. Ist der nicht so?
Uiuiui. Ich freue mich, dass du immer hernimmst.
Ja, Quellen muss man haben.
Hier geht's anscheinend rund. Da streiten zwei. Nein, sie kämpfen. Warum bloß?
Niemand wird hier einschreiten. Hier nicht. Behüten Sie sich selber. Sonst hau ich auf Sie auch noch drauf.
Nein, ich muss hier raus. Raus hier.
Behüter. Nur hier kann ich's rauslassen. Starr mich nicht so an. Wehr dich, wenn du schon ausschaust wie ein Mensch.
So, thank you very much. You can, yeah, I know you're muted, so sorry for that. Please feel free to contact me, either at thomas@scopeaudio.com or watch our website, sonictraces.com. I can send you a video where the tech tour that I did for the AES Vienna this year, and there you will get half an hour of the experience commented by me a little bit, and there's also a lot of things in English already. So if you're interested, just contact me and I will send you the link. It's on YouTube and you can relax on the sofa and enjoy the experience. Thank you very much. And now, if you have any questions.
Hold on, I have all of these windows popping up. Okay. Great talk, Thomas. That was nice.
Thank you.
And the one of the things listening to that last video, how did you deal with, so often we're able to deal with distance by messing with the wet-dry mix of our ambience. And obviously in an outdoor space, there isn't that option. So you were relying 100% on attenuation curves, I take it. Is that true?
Yeah, I did cheat a little bit. I did implement some reverb as well, like some outdoor impulse responses. But most of it is done, by low pass and high pass filtering with the attenuation curves.
I see. Okay, and just to follow up to that, um, the out what we were hearing on that video was solely created. That was all created audio. There was
That
no
was,
like.
yeah, everything was created. There was no
Okay.
no original sound. It was just straight out from the jack output from the iPhone.
Okay, so no real sound.
No real sounds.
Yeah, I thought the ambience, just the general noise, the atmosphere that you
Hmm.
created, was really convincing.
Hmm.
I had to wait for a second to actually realize if to try and realize if that was generated or you were actually recording it.
Okay.
So
Thanks. That's a nice
congratulations on that.
compliment.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks. It was actually my intention. I tried to build it when somebody puts on their headphone, they don't even realize if it's on or off or if they have to press anything because it sounds so natural.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's a very nice
Excellent. Nice job
compliment.
on that. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for your question, Jeff. And now we are going to Prince.
Yeah, Thomas, I'm intrigued by your notion of reverb as its own sound source. Could you elaborate?
Hmm. As Jeff mentioned, I mean, and we all know, in an outdoor space, you don't have a lot of reverberation going on. So in order to feel distances, you need to treat, or at least I did it, I needed to treat reverb as an own sound source. Like not to have some general rule how a room reverberates, but to create these small bits of reverb for every sound source depending on where they are within an open space. So maybe sometimes because of the voice over recording, it feels more natural to have the distance if you add a little reverb, where some other voiceover recordings don't need that. I didn't really figure out why that is. Maybe it's the voiceover talent, the
Sure,
timbre of the voice, whatsoever.
sure. Well, it
So
makes
yeah,
sense.
that's
It makes sense to me because you're talking about you're treating it aesthetically as a sound designer, and you're just responding to what
yeah.
you know intuitively. But I just wanted to make clear that I understood. So you're not talking about the reverb. I mean, the reverb, whatever it was, even if it was either artificial or it wouldn't really be there, you just did that as an aesthetics choice. But it was always localized
Yeah.
with its source, what would have been its source or its
Yeah.
source, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, there's one place where there's like two buildings coming together, and there I placed some more reverb zones or reverb positions in order to make it feel more reflective.
Ah,
And
so they're not the reverb only would be localized at a different position than the source, the dry source.
in that case, yes, yes.
I
But
see. Cool.
usually,
Very cool.
usually it's at the same source,
Sure,
same
sure. But I
position.
could see in a case like that where it would be appropriate that you might actually have them separated because of
Yeah.
a narrow alley or something where you would expect to hear
Yeah.
a reflection that appeared to be coming from elsewhere. Thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly.
Fascinating.
All right, thank you, Lawrence. And now we have Andrew.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you for your talk, Thomas. I had a
Thanks.
question about the voiceover narration. I do not speak German, but I could sense from the timbre that one of the voices was sort of wayfinding or some kind of announcement. Did you make an effort to have that serve as a kind of enhanced tutorial once the user was already in the space and have that sort of official voice carry them through the experience?
There's one introductional voice which represents the assistant in your ear, but no, not in sort of an tutorial something. We wanted to. I mean, you only have this in 2084, so in 1848 you don't have some tutorial whatsoever. So you're just placed into the space, and you should be able to navigate and uh, yeah, be able to realize how the system works just by listening to it and approaching sounds or approaching some areas. So yeah, we tried a lot, and we said no, let's not put up a tutorial because then you're somehow separated. It's like you get a technology explained to you, and you need to react on the technology. We wanted to have it like, okay, now you're just here and behave as you would in real life. So if you find something interesting, just go over there and listen to it.
Right, keeping it story first, as you said, and making it
Yeah.
naturalistic seeming.
Yeah,
Cool, thanks very
exactly.
much. I'll
Okay.
look forward to this next time I'm in Germany.
Yeah,
Austria, I'm sorry.
Austria, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and again, just contact me on Sonic Traces, come or whatever, and I'll send half an hour of the experience in form of a video.
Awesome. Do we have any other questions? I don't see any other questions, so I think are we going to go to the lobby, Lawrence, or? No, we have another session happening right now. So, hi everyone, Sally Calloway again, just your friendly, chair of the session, I guess. Thank you again to Thomas. We will take a couple of minutes to switch over the slide decks, and we will invite Shawnee up on stage to give her presentation about Minecraft AR. So Minecraft through a new lens, recontextualizing audio for mobile AR, coming right up in a few minutes.
Hi, Shawnee. I'm going to reset the space. And then you'll want to go on air. Well, yeah, I'm going to reset it, so you'll have to wait, but yeah.
Yes, I do. Separate device. Mm-hmm. Oh, nice.
Okay, Shawnee, you can step up to the podium if you like.
I believe I did, yeah. Let me know if I'm too loud or too quiet.
You're perfect.
You sound
Yay.
good. I'm gonna go up and enjoy the show.
Okay. When should I start?
Right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right, everyone. Let's, Shawnee, can you just make sure that you're, like, amplified on air and everything? And
Yeah.
just say hi to everyone, and we'll get some emojis if you can hear her.
Yeah, send me some emojis if you can hear me.
Wonderful. Perfect. All right, Shawnee, take it away.
Okay. Hello and welcome, everyone. This feels weird and awesome at the same time. I just want to give a quick disclaimer before I start. The landscapers just started working outside of my apartment, so I apologize if you hear any lawnmower bleeding to the mic. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for coming to my talk. What an interesting world we live in right now. Even with the pandemic going on, we have this virtual space together and attend the conference in our pajamas. I love it. And thank you, Sally, Matt, and Lawrence for inviting me to talk at AVAR. I first gave this talk at Game SoundCon last year, and I'm very thrilled to present this here again at AVAR. This talk, Minecraft Through a New Lens, Recontextualizing Audio for Mobile AR, will be essentially about my experience while working on a mobile AR game, Minecraft Earth. Let me see. Okay. Before we dig into the talk, let me give you a brief introduction about myself. My name is Shani Zhang. I'm currently an audio designer at Microsoft Mixed Reality team. I joined this team a month ago, and I work with 3 other awesome audio designers to design and implement soundscape for various mixed reality projects. Minecraft Earth team was my previous team where I made all the new audio assets, including sound effects and music, and incorporated original Minecraft sounds and mixed them together to design the soundscape for Minecraft Earth. I'm a composer and a sound designer. I was previously at Nintendo Software Technology in Redmond, Washington. I made some music arrangements and sound effects for several game projects, including Super Mario Maker for 3DS and Sniper Clips Plus. I'm a graduate from DigiPen Institute of Technology, which is the real version of this virtual space that AVAR is held right now. I immigrated from Daegu, South Korea, so if my English is a little bad, that's because I'm nervous. I'm sorry. Along with my work at Microsoft, I also work with Audio Kinetic for localizing their documentations, certifications, and blogs into Korean. So what will we talk about? Before that, I wanted to ask how many of you played Minecraft? Can you send me some emojis if you did? Oh yeah. Yeah, oh, I just remembered. Okay. Nice. If you ever played Minecraft, send me an emoji. Oh, you already did that? Okay. Great. I'm glad that most of you are not total stranger to the game. Please let me know if you don't understand any Minecraft terms that I'm using right now. So we're going to talk about 3 things. First, designing with intention, the high-level considerations. In this topic, we'll go over what major points I had to consider and keep in mind to design soundscape for this game. Before I design anything, I need to understand how the game is structured, what the focuses are, and what the challenges are. Secondly, unique solution for unique problems. Here, with the things I discussed in the first point in mind, I'll go over what unique challenges we had for this game and how we came up with the solutions. Third, the lessons I learned, literally. Before I get into the details, I should tell you that this talk is not really a technical talk for AR. It doesn't focus on one aspect of the audio either. But this is more like a summary of my thought processes to go over some main design points, challenges I had, and solutions I came up with. I'm not giving any answers or rules for designing mobile AR audio either. What I hope is that you see what my process was like, provide some interesting things to talk about, and if there are any better ways, you can give me suggestions or you can apply those ideas for your future AR projects. So, but first, what is Minecraft Earth? Let me play you a trailer.
Sometimes life requires thinking outside the blocks. No pets allowed in the house? Fill the backyard with muddy pigs. Host the perfect pixel party. And craft some compact cuteness. Or build something a bit more heavy metal. Minecraft Earth is at your fingertips. And above your head. And right behind you. Just watch out for surprise chicken showers. Sometimes things don't quite go as planned. Luckily, Minecraft Earth lets you tell your own stories. You can even upscale an epic fish fail. So grab your friends and explore an unbelievable world. Our own. Discover new dimensions to your creativity with Minecraft Earth.
Thank you. As you see, Minecraft Earth is an augmented reality game for mobile devices. It brings Minecraft into our universe. You can play both on iOS and Android. We're currently in early access, so things are still changing a lot and being added a lot, but you'll be able to download the game right now and play around anytime you want. A little more in depth, we have 4 game modes. The first one is location-based exploration and resource collection with tappables. This is the part that is kind of similar to other mobile AR games like Pokemon Go and Harry Potter Wizard Unite. As you explore, you will see a different type of tappables. As you can guess from its name, you tap on tappables to collect resources. Each tappable reveals different items when it's broken open, and the ones with the rarer items inside will require more taps to break them open. But why do you need all these resources? Well, of course, to build, just like Minecraft, right? In Minecraft Earth, you use build plates. A build plate is like a living chunk of Minecraft in a Lego size. You'll be getting more exciting build plates as you level up. Any flat surface is an opportunity to build. Just load a build plate, place a mob or a block that you collected, or you can mine blocks that are provided with the build plate. Since this is a living, breathing Minecraft world, the water flows, crops grow, and fire spreads. You can also build with friends you invite. Once you're happy with your creation, you can place it in the real world, in a life size. We call that play mode. In the play mode, you can go inside the building you created, interact with doors and buttons, and play with mobs or kill them if you want. Since this is a separate instance, everything you do in this session will be reset after you exit the mode. You can also invite your friends to play together here too. But that is not everything. There is an adventure mode. Like a very guided version of Minecraft with a clearer emotional arc and goal. So now that we know what the game is about, let's discuss some main points I had to consider before designing the soundscape and what questions I had in mind. So there are 3 main points to consider. Let's think about the social and open gameplay aspects first. You can explore, build, or go on adventures alone or together. Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm a little, where am I? Here. Let's think about the social and open gameplay aspect first. Sorry, I'm in a different place. Sorry about that.
No worries, Shani. We're seeing,
Sorry.
or at least I'm seeing. There we go.
Yeah.
So it looks like you just were able to advance slides. So I think you're okay.
Okay, there is that.
Yeah, 3 main considerations.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay. There you go. And second, it is a mobile AR game. And third, this is a Minecraft but in the real world. It is a franchise expansion. I had to think about how to modernize and scale the Minecraft aesthetic. And let's think about the social and open gameplay aspects first. You can explore, build, or go on adventures alone or together. This is a multiplayer game in real life. So you'll hear your friends talking and the sounds from your friends' phones, if they have their speakers on, of course. The gameplay is very repetitive and it cycles very fast. You can walk miles and miles just collecting tappables. You walk, you find tappables, and you get items, and you repeat that for a long time. You'll hear those tappables and item reveal sounds a lot, and those sounds should be rewarding sounding, but not annoying. As I said, you can walk miles and miles just to collect tappables, and you can also spend hours and hours just building. Playtime can be very long. So what does that mean for music and sound? Well, I think the first thing to keep in mind is don't do annoying. I know that a lot of people mute their speakers when they play mobile games, but if they do have their speakers on, what do they want to hear? What do they care about and what do they not care about? I need to keep the soundscape to be not only ambient and relaxing, but also informative to the players, so they want to keep hearing them. And one thing I keep in mind is that no one plays a game muted when they play it for the first time. Even when they have their speakers muted later, they're imagining the sound effects and music that they remember in their head. So sounds are indeed important for mobile games too. Now let's talk about the mobile AR aspect. Does AR always mean cutting-edge technology for audio? Should I consider using HRTF? In case you don't know what HRTF is head-related transfer function. It is how our ears perceive sounds in space. Well, first of all, the game is not really best experienced with headphones. This is not a wearing headphones is highly suggested kind of game. High technology spatial audio is not the focus. Like I said in the first point, this game has a very strong social aspect. You want to talk to your friends and hear your surroundings while you're playing the game. Also, well, okay, I'm a little ahead. Also, we have some platform and technical limitations. The memory and CPU limit is not really high on mobile devices. Also, because it is on mobile, players will most likely play with earbuds or with a phone speaker. Even though the sound quality of those have improved a lot, we still have some limitations for the frequency range that I can use. And of course, because this is AR, not VR, we need to incorporate the real-life sounds. And because this is a real-life multiplayer mobile AR game, we had to deal with other players' sounds as well. We don't have to worry about playing their sounds because it is already being emitted from their actual position. So it's like we get the free spatialization. So what sounds should we still hear on your speaker? And what sounds do I not have to play from your speaker? And not only that, a very unique aspect of Minecraft Earth is that we deal with different scales of AR gameplay. We have a tabletop size build play, just like having virtual Lego blocks to build with, and we have the full-size gameplay where you go into the world that you built or go on adventures to mine ores and get rewards. Another consideration I had in mind was modernizing and scaling the Minecraft aesthetic. This game is still a Minecraft game, but there are a lot of new things added to it. Visually, the lighting is better, particle effects are cooler, and the animations are way more detailed and polished. There are a lot of variations for each animations too. So what does this mean sonically? What does it mean for sound effects? And how about the music? What things can I make better and newer? And what things should I keep the same? Also, this is a franchise expansion, so I needed to think about how I can sonically brand Minecraft franchise and Minecraft Earth. An example I had in mind was Nintendo Switch. As you all know, their UI sounds are so well designed, and it represents the Nintendo Switch brand really well. If Nintendo Switch UI is snappy and mechanical sounding, I wanted Minecraft Earth to sound bloppy and acoustic sounding. Players don't use a mechanical button or a mouse, but they use their fingers to tap on the screen. So I thought making the UI buttons sound bloppy would fit better. Also, I wanted to use more acoustic sounding sounds instead of synthy UI sounds. Also, as much as I wanted to go crazy and make it super polished and high res, Minecraft is not really about being realistic. Everything is a block. You can hear zombies in a cave below you, just like they're right next to you. There's no fancy DSP effects either. There are barely occlusion and obstruction happening in the game. We don't even have typical ambience loop like wind, imaginary birds, or crickets in Minecraft. As much as I want the soundscape to be fuller, this is certainly a characteristic of Minecraft, and I should respect that. Lastly, I had to create a pipeline that scales with the new project. With the original system, it is going to be really hard to achieve the audio goal we had for this game. I'll talk about this more later. So with these three main considerations in mind, let's talk about the problems and solutions. So the first point was about social and open gameplay. Like I said earlier, the gameplay can be very repetitive, happens in fast cycle, and can be really long. So really, at all costs, I didn't want the sounds to be annoying at all to the players, which is really hard to achieve. So for music, I kept the same style of implementation as original Minecraft by giving a playlist of music instead of looping the same track until the gameplay state changes. And each mode has its own playlist. So the map mode has its own playlist. The build mode playlist is filled with the creative mode tracks from the original Minecraft. And the play mode playlist is filled with the survival mode tracks from the original Minecraft. Between each track, we give a randomized delay in between, so there's some silence between the tracks. For sound effects, I had to pay attention to how often a certain type of sound effects are played. For example, every time you tap on a tappable, you're rewarded with items. Each item reveal has a celebration sound that is tied to its rarity. Each rarity celebration had to sound unique, so the player could associate the sound with the rarity. Since this is a short musical stinger, I simply transposed in whole steps and made 5 variations for each rarity. There are also some long sounds that are repeated as well. In those cases, I keep the same instrumentation, but compose a different phrase that is rhythmically or harmonically different. The main focus for these variations was to keep them sound similar enough so that the player can learn it and associate it with its purpose, but it is different enough that it is not tiring into their ears. Also, this is multiplay in real life. If you are playing with your friends, you'll probably be hearing the sounds on the speaker, not from your earbuds. This means that the fancy spatial audio won't really make a difference because everything will come out of this almost mono phone speaker. Another reason not to worry too much about HRTF or fancy spatialization technology, right? Not only that, you get free spatialization from your friends. Nothing can beat real-life spatialization. So we take advantage of this and don't play third-person's character sounds such as when they take damage or eat, because you'll hear it from their position. So because of all this, the master output from my AVMOD project is a lie. So this is a graph of Minecraft Earth bus structure. So there are many different child buses to handle each type of sound, and they all go to the master output of my AVMOD project. But that is not really everything. There are a lot of real-life sounds being mixed into the game sound before it reaches into your ears. So what are some unique problems and challenges I had specifically for this being mobile AR? For this game, we had a unique challenge to set attenuations for 3D sounds. On a macro level, we had different scales of gameplay. There are two main scales. In the play mode and adventures, everything is a full size. You're basically the same size as the characters in Minecraft. However, in the build mode, everything is tiny like Lego blocks. So you're like a giant comparing to all the mobs and blocks. So you can see everything that is happening on the surface. Originally, we tried keeping the attenuation the same as normal Minecraft, but there was a problem. The attenuation was set using the blocks as a unit, so if the volume property is 1, it can be heard until you're 6 blocks away. So after 6 blocks, the sound just drastically cuts off. There was no way that it could fulfill Minecraft Earth's needs with this, so I had to redesign attenuation settings for each object. But even that was not enough. Using the full-size attenuation settings for the build mode didn't work because you had to be pretty close to hear the sounds. So I had to create separate settings for the build mode. But even the build plate size differs depending on its size as well. A block in a 4x4 build plate is bigger than a block in 32x32 build plate. So the design team was still in process adjusting scales and brainstorming different scales when I was designing the attenuation settings, so I needed to keep that in mind as well. So this is what I did. The event itself doesn't play any assets directly. The parent event doesn't have any tracks with actual assets. There's no attenuation settings either. Instead, each event has an RTPC named scale. When this parameter is set to 10, it triggers a reference event called full scale. And when this is set to 20, it triggers a referenced event called tabletop. So the reason why I have these empty spaces in between is to leave room for any possible scales in between these two major modes. Inside the nested event, you'll see the actual sounds. This is the nested event for digging grass in full size. One block is about 0.75 meter, so this sound starts attenuating from 2.25 meter. And around 22.5 meter, the sound will be at its maximum attenuation value. And this is the same sound, but it's in a tabletop mode, which is for build mode. In the tabletop mode, one block is about 0.07 meter. So about at 0.28 meter, the sound starts attenuating. And around 4.9 meter, the volume will be at its maximum attenuation value. So this is a difference in a macro level. Tabletop and full size have their own attenuation. But not all the sounds have the same attenuation settings for tabletop and full scale. Just like typical games, some sounds should be heard even when you're far away from it, and some sounds are only audible when you're pretty close to it. Prioritizing sounds was very important for this game because of two main reasons. Number one, the build and play mode is almost like a sandbox game. So for example, you can build a barn with hundreds of animals. There can be so many sounds playing, happening in this tiny chunk of Minecraft. And number two, you can build for hours and hours. But the variation we have for idle sounds for the mob and ambient sounds were pretty limited. And again, the audio shouldn't be annoying. So because of these two reasons, I had to divide the sounds into different categories and prioritize them for better focus and performance. So these are the main 7 categories of sounds in the AR mode. Left is the most important, and the right side is the least important. Player sounds like damage and eat are the most important sounds with no questions. These are played in 2D, nice and loud, and the UI sounds and stingers are equally important. We have a feedback sound when you try to place a block or a mob in an invalid place as well, and we have some music cues to guide the players in adventures. All of these sounds shouldn't be compromised in any ways. So I play these sounds loud and clear in 2D. The second tier category is interaction sounds. Some examples on these sounds are mining, building, interactable block sounds. Whenever you dig, place, break a block, open a door, or press a button, you hear the sound. And these sounds are very important because these are direct feedback to players' action. So even in the build mode, when everything is a Lego size and you're pretty far away from it, you should still hear these sounds pretty loud and clear. The third tier category is hostile mob sounds. The reason why the hostile mob sounds have higher priority than peaceful mob sounds is because they can harm the players. So they don't only serve as an environmental ambience, but those sounds give players important information. And just like original Minecraft, if there's a skeleton hiding below you, you will want to know, right? So that you don't die. And the fourth tier is peaceful mob sounds. So even among hostile and peaceful mob sounds, hurt and death sounds for both type of mobs are more important than their idle or behavioral sounds because those count as interaction sounds. And the fifth and sixth tiers are ambient sounds. And of course, the functional ambience like piston or fireworks explosion are more prioritized than environmental sounds like water and lava. And one thing to note is that water and lava sounds are actually really important in original Minecraft because that's how you find a cave and expect potential danger when you're digging. But in Minecraft Earth, you can't really fall down into water or lava. So those sounds could have a lower priority in this game. So let's look at two different main types of attenuation curves that are used among these type of sounds. This is the attenuation curve I used for important sounds like player action feedback and informational sound effects. Since you have to hear the sounds pretty clear even when you're far away, I set the minimum distance to be longer. This makes it so that the sound doesn't attenuate until it reaches this value. After minimum distance, the sound starts attenuating using the curve I assign, and when it reaches the max distance value, the volume is maintained. However, for less important sounds such as peaceful mob, idle, footstep sounds, and looping sound effects have a smaller minimum distance, so it starts attenuating at a shorter distance. Instant limit on these are also set more strictly to prevent voice starvation. So I spent a lot of time scribbling notes and drawing things on my notepad, but that doesn't really make anything perfect, right? Real-time profiling and tuning was so important to get these things right, so I play tested a lot. And for build mode, I tested as I get further and further away, as far as I could go to build things. I made sure that the interaction sounds like digging and placing a block attenuates when you get far away, but still audible. And for play mode, full-size mode, I kept things pretty similar to the original Minecraft and the real world, except for the fact that the sound doesn't just cut off after 6 blocks. So another thing I had to deal with considering the AR aspect of the game was the real world sounds. In augmented reality, the real world is the ambience. Unlike virtual reality, we cannot take players away from the real world. Instead, we enhance the real world's ambience by adding an extra layer. So it's like a augmented ambience for augmented reality. In the map mode, you're not fully in AR mode where you use the camera to see your surroundings with the augmented gameplay. When you're looking at the map, it has the same geography as real world, kind of like Pokemon Go, but the vibe is totally different. Right now, the map looks like a grassy biome in Minecraft. The sky is blue, it is sunny, and the grass is everywhere. So whenever players explore to collect tappables, I wanted them to feel relaxing and feel like they're just walking on the grassy meadows, even though they're just like in downtown Seattle with lots of trash around. That's why in the map mode, I have a layer of wind and birds as augmented ambience. However, in the AR mode, the chunk of Minecraft is seen on top of your surroundings. It would feel weird if I put imaginary birds or winds to that, especially if you're playing inside of the building or in a snowy and dark place. Instead, the in-game sounds like mobs, water, and lava coming from the virtual Minecraft world naturally fill in the space to form the ambience. Now let's move on to the last point, scaling and modernizing. So I mentioned earlier that I wanted this game to have a modern Minecraft aesthetic. And again, Minecraft is not really about being realistic. There are no footstep switches to cover different surfaces, no environmental effects either. I had to stay on this non-realistic brand, but deliver a newer experience for Minecraft Earth. I had to establish a musical style as well. So here's a diagram that shows what things exist in original Minecraft and what I chose to keep and what I'm adding on top of it to make it feel like Minecraft Earth. In the original Minecraft on the left side, the animation sounds are not really synced perfectly to animations. There are no UI sounds for a lot of the buttons. There are only some acoustic click type of sounds for some important buttons. The attenuation curves are not really set well. The sounds are hard cut after certain blocks. These had to change. However, I kept the footsteps to be surface agnostic, which give more characteristics to each mob. I also kept the UI to be acoustic sounding to stay within the brand. And on top of that, on the right side, I added some environmental ambience as a layer of augmented ambience. And I synced the animation sounds more tightly to the animation to keep up with the detailed animations for new mobs. And I created more variations to give mobs more personalities. Also, the UI sounds are more tailored to reflect players' action and feedback. Some simple DSP effects were used to make it sound more high-res and modern, and I incorporated more musical sound effects for more emotional guidance. Then what about music? C418's music, if you know, he's a composer for Minecraft. His music has been used in Minecraft for a long time. We wanted to keep using some original music so the player instantly have this nostalgia to the original Minecraft. But we wanted to introduce new music that represents this specific game. Since we're blending both original and the new music, my main goal for music was to keep the same style but introducing something new. So let's talk about the main aspects of the Minecraft music for a moment, the original Minecraft music. I don't have a clip ready here, but let's talk about some main characteristics of C418's music. A lot of the tracks use ostinato patterns, mostly using sequencer in a synthesizer. Musically, it doesn't move very fast. Nothing is really in your face and driving your emotions fast. There's a sense of distance and space. And solo piano is used for theme music. And of course, a lot of synth pads. And as you might have heard in the menu scene, which is the theme music, the theme melody is a descending phrase. It starts at the highest point and it goes down. So it goes like da 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 da. Like that. So for Minecraft Earth, I wanted to introduce some new musical aspects that goes well with the new gameplay and visual aspect of the game. I wanted to feel more outdoorsy, especially when you're exploring your area and collecting tappables, which is totally a unique part for Minecraft Earth. I wanted them to feel like they're walking in a grassy biome in a sunny day. I also wanted to incorporate more acoustic instruments and acoustic sounding synth pads. This goes in parallel with the visuals having more updated looks. And in contrast to descending theme of the Minecraft, I wanted our theme to be ascending. But as I mentioned earlier, we wanted to keep the playlist style of music with pauses in between. So we're starting with the original music first, and we move on to new tracks later. The reason is because these original tracks from the original composer have such strong triggers of nostalgia and familiarity, and these really help sealing Minecraft Earth as an absolute Minecraft core game. This was a direct request from the game director. So we start with the nostalgia and introduce a new era as you explore the map. So here's the first 2 track I wrote. This is a video I put together for our team to sell this idea initially. Thank you. Thank you. if I may, so I was actually just searching this stuff to see if somebody just captured the game music and posted on YouTube, because people do that. And I came across this comment, and I really just wanted to share it because it was such a rewarding moment. Let me just read it. I have to say, this song does what it was designed to do. Not all songs successfully evoke the feels they were going for. This song, as you're walking around through the real world and moving so slow through the Minecraft world, you think how absolutely huge our world is, and how much you have left to explore. It brings to mind just how precious and rare and normally our little slice of the universe is, a sphere of life and joy in a sea of darkness and emptiness. That just really warmed my heart. So I just wanted to share it. Let's move on. As I mentioned earlier in this presentation, it is going to be very difficult to achieve the audio goal for this game with the original system for Minecraft. And before I joined the team, there was no audio person. So creating an audio pipeline that scales with Minecraft Earth was my main focus when I first joined the team. Let's talk about the original Minecraft features and tools for a moment. Original Minecraft is built on a custom engine and it uses Fmod low-level API. All of the audio files were stored as FSB files, and everything was handled in JSON files and in game codes. And again, there were no functionality to loop or stop the sounds. So first of all, I knew that I had to somehow request an audio tool to be built, so I have more control, or I had to convince the team to integrate some kind of middleware. Also, since we uses the entire vanilla Minecraft gameplay in the AR mode, I needed them to be included in my hierarchy of sounds for Minecraft Earth. So figuring out how the audio works in Minecraft and figuring out the audio pipeline was my first action I had to take. Luckily, they were too busy to build any custom tools for me. And luckily, we were already using low-level Fmod API. So I was able to convince the team to integrate Fmod Studio. And I imported all the vanilla sounds, the original Minecraft sounds, into my project file, so everything could be under the same hierarchy of sounds. This was a huge upgrade for us. And since we're doing a lot of detailed animations for mob variants, we absolutely needed an ability to sync animation sounds to the animation. Believe it or not, this was a huge step from original Minecraft, and this really helped me design more detailed animation sounds. And establishing audio team and advocating for audio. I feel like this is a challenge in a lot of teams and companies, especially when you're the only audio person. When I started, I didn't have a project manager for audio, so I kept not being notified immediately about all the important deadlines and major game changes. Also, tester didn't have any structure to test audio, so it took too much time to find any audio bugs. Basically, I was the only person who's even noticing that the game was missing the whole sounds one day. That was scary. And at that time, they thought audio was just a polished thing they could do if they have time. So I have to keep reminding people that audio is not polish. You know, artists, designers, and programmers all work together to put a feature in the game. And audio should be part of that process, not on top of it after everything's done. So it took a while to establish this with my team. I asked the art PM, project manager, to be my PM as well. And right now, missing audio is a blocker for us shipping a build, which is a huge upgrade. And I had a programmer who I worked closely to develop audio pipeline. And because the devs have different levels of experience for implementing audio, I should always be as clear as I can. Assuming how the game engine takes care of audio things and how the dev will implement was very dangerous for me. For example, in Unity or Unreal, when you attach a sound event to the game object, the position is constantly updated as the object moves. That doesn't just automatically happen in our engine. So It was crucial to explain every single detail of where the sound should be attached to, how it should behave, and what things I'm handling in Fmod, so they don't assume anything wrong. So what did I learn? Of course, I learned a lot of things, but I wanted to point out some important lessons. When I first figured out that this was an AR game, I freaked out and worried about learning all the fancy technologies to handle the spatial audio. I was Googling like HRTF and AR and just like high tech, and I was just going so crazy and scared. But no, you start. What? Oh, can you hear me? If you can hear me. Oh, yeah, you can hear me. There you go. So when I first figured out that this was an AR game, I freaked out and worried about just learning all the fancy technologies for AR audio. But not really. You start with the end goal. What do you want the player to experience? And what do you want them to feel? What is the main focus and end goal for this game? And after that, you choose and use that technology you need to achieve your goal. Cutting-edge technology doesn't always mean the best. What works is the best. I also learned a lot about how to advocate for audio. Especially as the only audio person on the team, it is not easy to explain what you envision. Whenever I wanted a cool audio feature, I made sure to spend a lot of time to make a good mock-up video, and I shared that with the team instead of just writing a spec. Showing my vision within the context is extremely helpful to make them feel. Instead of explaining the audio needs with the feature request spec, just show them and make them feel and listen to what you envision and make them fall in love. Then they will want to have your cool idea in the game because they just love it so much. And that is the end of my talk. This game is still actively being developed, and there are a lot of new features being added. I highly recommend downloading it and playing around with it, and I can't wait to hear what you think of it. Thank you so much. Do you have any questions? I don't
Hi.
hear anything.
Hello?
Yeah. Megan, are you moderating?
Yes. Can you
Okay, now we can hear you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
you were, I
sorry
think you were
about that.
muted.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Okay, yep.
Yeah.
So, Lawrence, with the first question.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I know I always butt in with questions, but I just love this talk. Shawnee, fabulous presentation. I noticed that you coined a new technical term for sound designers, bloppy.
Yeah.
So that will now be in the lexicon, and we'll start teaching that at DigiPen as a new term. But my question to you was, you, and I loved it. You talked about it a little bit earlier. You said audio is not polish, and then you went on to say that about expanding on your mission to make your teammates fall in love with audio. And it made me think of a question I asked Emily Ridgway during yesterday's Valve panel discussion. I don't know if were you there for that? It was
No,
really good. Oh, well, anyway, but she mentioned that she had to champion audio during the simultaneous development of the Valve Index hardware and the VR game Half-Life Alyx. And the whole ear speaker thing was just her idea. She championed it. So I asked her about that. I said, why is it that we as audio people have to champion our cause? And it was interesting. Her response was, she said that it was really that she just felt that it's our responsibility to do exactly what you, Shawnee, just said, which is that's our job, is to share our music and sound and our vision with our coworkers, and to make them fall in love. And I love your explanation of that. But that was basically what she said too. And I thought maybe, what were your thoughts about that?
Oh, what my thoughts about what she said?
Well, just that whole notion, really. I guess it's more of an observation than a question, but I just thought it was cool how in sync you guys are.
to acknowledge that it's our responsibility to
Yeah, well, like, how do you
yeah.
go about that? How do you go about making your teammates fall in love with your work so that audio is not just a polished thing and it's not a post-production task. It's something that is integrated with the development of the experience.
Mm-hmm. I'll try to answer your question. Let me know if it's not what you're expecting.
Sure.
But it's challenging, especially when there's no like audio department. In my situation, the art has an art director, art lead, and a lot of 3D artists and their whole team. And the programmers, they have the programmer, the lead director, and the design has a director. And audio, we didn't have an audio department. It was just me. So people didn't really consider me as like one of the main branches of the game development. And I think to solving that, just how people think of audio in terms of pipeline, that was really important. So I had a lot of talk with my manager, who was the game director, to make sure that audio is one of the main branches. And whenever we are brainstorming about features, I had to be included, or we even though I'm not there, they will just keep audio in mind when they're first brainstorming. Even that was really really important for me. And
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you.
and
Yeah.
the mock-up videos, that really helps, because people just playing the WAV file, they don't really get it. And especially for this kind of music, it can sound boring because the music can last for like 3 to 4 minutes. And it's really important just to give them a full context with the gameplay capture and how you will hear it within the context. I think that really helped making them fall in love. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh,
All right.
Yeah.
Our next question is David. David, can you ask your question?
Oh, is it me? Hi, Shawnee.
Shoot, it's David Schneider, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't hear you before. Hi, just curious, is this game still under active development, and are you still involved with it, or have you moved on to something else?
So I moved on to the HoloLens team, and I think they're in a transition in terms of development, but it's still being developed, and it is going. It is going. Yeah.
Are you working on something similar now, or is it
I guess it's kind of similar. It's augmented, like mixed reality things. So I work with the other designers to create sound effects and music and implementation. So in terms of just what I do, it's kind of similar, but I would say it's not in games, the stuff that I do right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. If David Buzz could go this time.
Sorry, I'm not
Sure
hearing
thing.
you.
Sorry about that. So in your talk, you had mentioned that you were working with, I guess, software devs and QA to let them know that there have been issues and bugs. And as someone who works as a QA engineer with an audio software company, maybe a bit jealously, I'd be curious if you have any advice or just things that you would suggest for anyone who wants to understand a bit more about the audio and things to point out in here. I know a lot of it comes down to just use your ears and pay attention, but if there are other things that you can point out that would be helpful that you'd want to pass on, I'd be appreciative.
For non-audio people to chime into audio testing?
Yeah.
Sorry, trying to, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, so I think for a very basic level, we want to make sure that the testers are even hearing the audio. A lot of times they don't realize that they just test with the speakers muted. So I think even that level is missing a lot of the times. So I think it's important to talk to the test team and make sure that the audio is already, the speakers are also, always on. So if the sound bank is it's broken or something and the whole audio is missing, they have to realize that like right away so we can fix it. And let's see what else. Sorry, I'm like brainstorming right now. I think it's just conversation with the test team and testers. And whenever we have a feature that has to be tested, I always make sure that I leave a comment on the page that testers look at to test things. I make sure to list out what audio things to be tested. Like number one, it should be like this audio file should be heard in this context, and it should be emitted from the actual position. And if there's like DSP effects, I list out everything so they can kind of know what to expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Does that answer your
absolutely. That
question?
makes sense. Thank you. Yeah, this is
Thank
great.
you.
I
Any
don't
other
see any
questions?
other questions, but I actually did have a question myself.
Yeah.
You know, when you were talking about, you know, you first found out it was an AR game and like, oh my goodness, I need to find out all about these HRTFs and all this fancy technology and all of that sort of. Was there any moment like specifically where you realized you needed to focus on the end product and just like, was there any specific like story, I guess, that you could talk about where you suddenly realized it doesn't necessarily have to be that complicated?
It was a quick realization. So when I was hired, they didn't tell me anything. They just said new Minecraft game, and when the director showed me a prototype of the game, he just played the build on his phone, and the Minecraft world was inside of your little screen. And I didn't really realize that it was AR. It was just like, oh, it's a mobile game. I'm okay. And then I went home and figured out, oh, this is an AR. And I had a second of just panicking. And then I quickly realized that this is mobile AR, and I don't even think there's anything in the game engine to handle spatialization that well. And it's yeah, I thought it was just a quick realization for me. Just the platform itself, being a mobile game, made me realize that I don't really have to worry about HRTF, any kind of things. And realizing like what technology that we can work with. It was like the spatialization plugin was not something that I could think of. So I quickly just forgot about all the worrying about technology and focused on like what the gameplay is like. And then I made a list of things in audio that one needs to be done. Am I answering your question?
No, yeah,
Is that,
absolutely.
yeah?
I don't see any other hand raises, so I think we're going into coffee hour. Is that right?
That's right. Yay, Shawnee.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Shawnee, for a fantastic presentation. As we just kind of highlighted there, we're going to go into a 27-minute break, and we will have some mingling and mixing time in the lobby. But we will also reconvene back here for the final session, which will be, as I said, in 27 minutes, and on the UI user experience and binaural audio. So 2 more fantastic presentations that we'll see you back here for. Thanks, everyone.